Hello everyone, welcome back to Moonlight Productions. Today, we're heading to the state of Connecticut, the Nutmeg State, the Provision State. The main nickname is the Constitution State. However, my personal favorite is the Land of Steady Habits. Connecticut was first explored by the Dutch in the 1630s. English Puritans would also later colonize the area from Europe and Massachusetts. Starting in 1633, the city of Boston had grown so densely populated, settlers began to move and spread out to the surrounding areas. Come 1639, Connecticut had begun an independent process of democratic principles in the Connecticut area, being recorded as the first U.S. state to implement democratic practices. As a result, Connecticut will be known as the Constitution State. Connecticut residents are very enthusiastic about history, so this will be something to see or know if you ever live or visit the state. Connecticut was incorporated as the fifth state on January 9th, 1788, making it the first state to be incorporated into a group of states that we now know today as New England. In the state of Connecticut, in terms of land area, Connecticut is the third smallest state, while the population of the state is a little over 3.5 million residents, or 1.06% of the U.S. population. The state capital is Hartford, which is home to 121,000 residents, making it the state capital, the 29th largest state capital. While there are some many good things about Connecticut and it was regarded as a state with a very high quality of life score, the Constitution State is slowly losing residents. So there are some issues in the state that need to be resolved. So join me as I bring you the good and bad about Connecticut. The fifth worst thing about Connecticut is both the congestion with or without being in traffic. Being in such a small state with a larger than average population on the said land equals to a lot of real congestion in Connecticut. Both traffic being screwed up with all the New York City commuters, and even excluding those drivers, traffic throughout the state is also quite antagonizing. After the traffic nightmare, you have to deal with the nonsense that is human congestion. Similarly, the amount of people per square mile in Connecticut is 734 people. Not as bad as some other places, but it's the fourth most congested state in the nation, be the sixth if you included both Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia. Case in point, if you hate being congested, Connecticut may not be for you. The fifth best part about being in Connecticut is the state scenery. With living in New England comes the advent of being in some of the most picturesque locations in the nation. You could be on the southern coast and be with all the islands of outdoor activities like sailing or fishing. If water is not your thing, there are plenty of locations in the inland area of the state. It goes very well for hunting activities, hiking, and other land activities. It even bleeds further into the rest of New England, which is states like Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Vermont, New Hampshire. It really could take you quite a while to finish everything in Connecticut, or heck, New England in general. The fourth worst thing about Connecticut, the job market sucks. Since the pandemic, there's been a lot of unfortunate amount of trying and failing to get back into the market when it comes to market growth and filling positions to get the gas tank filled back up. As a result, labor participation is pitiful, unemployment is higher than the national average, it even jumps into the top 10 in the nation depending on your source. Considering you have New York, Providence, Boston to choose from when it comes to more open and competitive job markets, Connecticut may not be for you. The fourth best thing about Connecticut is safety. Hartford is an exception to all this when it comes to crime in the state. That city has around 10 violent crimes per 1,000 residents, as well as 31 property crimes per 1,000 residents. However, the rest of Connecticut has some of the safest locations in the nation. Connecticut's western and eastern portions tend to be really safe suburbs for places like New York City and Boston. The average homicide rate in Connecticut is 2.8 homicides per 100,000 residents. The firearm rate is also relatively low at 4.6 per 100,000 residents. So it's all good around for the safety in the state, with some notable exceptions. Connecticut is a great state for those who like being safe. The third worst thing about Connecticut is winter weather. The state has long, hot summers. Meanwhile, the condition tends to whiplash much colder in the winter, more than many states. So I can make a safe bet that you're either a snowbird or you know someone who is one, because Connecticut can get harshly cold in the winter. Some days in the December to February time zone, it isn't uncommon to put up with being stuck inside. Meanwhile, outside, it can be in the 0-degree realm, only getting into the high realm of 80 during the August months. Thankfully, the summers in Connecticut are great, it's just the winters are scary. The third best thing about Connecticut is the state history. State history in Connecticut residents is part of the lifeblood of the United States. I mean, they don't call it the Constitution State for anything. From the early days of the Dutch settling there, to the contribution that the state brought to the American War of Independence, if you're a history nerd, Connecticut, along with the rest of the Atlantic and New England area, is perfect for you. The second worst thing about Connecticut is the city of Hartford. It's Hartford. This city does not have many defenders. It's expensive, crime is rampant, and most of the issues in Connecticut as a whole also tend to happen in the capital city of Hartford. Don't get me wrong, there are good things about Hartford, there's just not enough good things to compensate when it comes to the suckage factor of this city. What's really frustrating about all this is that Hartford was actually one of the most wealthy and phenomenal locations to live in following the Civil War. Hopefully they can make a turnaround, because I pray for them. The second best thing about Connecticut is both wealth and wages. While the cost of living in Connecticut is very high, wages are also pretty strong, especially in the western portion of Connecticut where many of the state's residents are going to commute to New York City. According to the World Population Review, the state average for Connecticut wages is $78,833. They result in Connecticut being the sixth state with the largest average for wage earners. Although this is important because Connecticut also does have one of the largest disparities in wage earners in the nation, as Connecticut has some terrible areas in the state, but they also have some of the largest and wealthiest locations in the country. And the number one worst thing about Connecticut is the cost of living and housing. Connecticut is an expensive state for many people. Housing costs in Connecticut are also quite gut-punching since you can commute to New York City. There is a reason why it's been costly to live in Connecticut. In addition, healthcare, utilities, transportation, groceries, and other miscellaneous goods and services are all higher than the U.S. average. According to the Missouri Economic Research and Information Center, if you combine every considered necessity in life, the cost of living on average in Connecticut is almost 20% higher than the U.S. average. So, to make a long story short, you're going to be paying up in the nutmeg state. Lastly, the best thing about Connecticut is the education. Connecticut is the state to go if you're looking for a good education. While the form on K through 12 in Connecticut is rather similar to the U.S. average, in addition, Connecticut is a state that is more famous for some of the best colleges and universities in the nation. Sure, they are more expensive than most, but Connecticut is the place to go in terms of putting out the most qualified workers in the country. The University of Connecticut, Quinnipiac, Trinity, and probably the second most famous college in America, Yale University. Connecticut is sure one of those buck stop locations when it comes to places you would want to consider going to for college if you have some money. Alright, so those are some of the pros and cons about living in Connecticut. Obviously, those aren't the only things that are excellent or atrocious about Connecticut, so I would love for you to give me some of your suggestions about the Constitution State in the comments. Thank you for sticking around. Please hit that like button, share the video if you can, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to Moonlight Productions. My name is Adam, thank you so much for your time, and take care of yourself. Bye!